Hi everyone, welcome to the Racist War. With you recording on a Monday evening, so we're on time. Isn't that great?
Thank you.
So, Fenian here, Nolsey's here. Thank you, Nolsey, for joining me on time today, or thereabouts.
Fuck you.
No, it's just like Monday is definitely the most convenient time for myself to do this. Other evenings don't work so well. Anyway, another big week in Australian politics, so we have plenty for you today. We're going to start off on the coalition, and I can say that again without referring to them in the past tense. They are a coalition again. Humpty Dumpty was put back together again, even if that
did all the knights come together?
Well, it may be somewhat fragile. I mean, given that this is the second time this in 9 months that we had both a split and a remarriage. So they're back together. They did. Susan Lee and David Littleproud did a joint press conference that went for about 25 minutes, where they stood side by side, smiling, pretending like everything was just fine. And
it's like your divorced parents.
Kind of, when they're trying to convince their kids that they're still friends. Yeah. So when they spoke about, what was the main reason, or you could say the catalyst for the coalition splitting, well, they both said that it was the rushed timeline in introducing the hate speech laws. Trying to ram both bills through the House and, guillotine motion, so the debate was reduced. It also meant that there was not a joint party room meeting, meaning that the Liberals and the Nationals didn't sit together as one in a party room to debate the bill amongst themselves and come up with an overall coalition position. Instead, the Libs just said, okay, well, we're voting for it. And, the Nats delayed. They abstained, except for Michael McCormick, who voted for it.
Yes.
And people keep going on about how he's going to be leader. What?
No, make a note of Michael McCormick. So,
yeah, please, everyone, remember that Michael McCormick voted for the bill. He didn't even abstain like the other members did. But okay, fine. Like yeah, to an extent, I definitely agree that that was kind of the catalyst to bring that apart. But need I point out again that both the Liberals and the Nationals, both Susan Lee and David Littleproud, called for Parliament to be recalled early so that we could rush through hate speech laws to respond to the Bondi attack. They had this coming. And also, I guess you could also admit that by saying that they blame the hate speech laws, they're essentially giving credit to Anthony Albanese for being a good political tactician. Because if this was some kind of a trap that Labor set for them, and maybe it was because they sensed that there were going to be parts or provisions within the bill, the omnibus bill that was eventually split into two, that would be contentious, that would divide the Liberal Party, that would divide the National Party, and therefore could actually mean another split. I'm sure that probably crossed Anthony Albanese's mind. And so the coalition got what they wanted, and in turn, Anthony Albanese and Labor got what they wanted, which was a coalition split. And, well, now, have we seen the latest polls? So this is Monday, the 9th of February. A poll was released this morning. So this is by Newspoll, The Australian. This is for the primary vote, not for two-party preferred, but here it is. Labor on top with 33%.
Are you afraid of fry women? I was going to say, are you afraid of fry women?
Afraid of what?
Fry women on the fish shop.
What does that mean?
Oh no, like Pauline Hanson going from like a fish fry shop.
Oh, I have nothing against people who run fish and chips shops, and I don't see why that should be something to mock someone over. Um, Running a small business like that, like she did as a single mum, doing like 14-hour days or whatever it was, I think that was a pretty good effort. But anyway, let me read out these poll numbers. So Labor's on top with 33%. Then you have One Nation. Yes, this is another poll that has One Nation ahead of the coalition. One Nation is on 27%. But get this, the coalition is now in this news poll sitting at 18%. Okay? Wow, that is massive, massive. That's
As of
9
the
percentage
ABC,
points.
it's 2%, and the coalition is at 31%.
Was that two-party preferred?
Oh yes,
Okay.
it's the ABC. It's like they like yeah. Anyway,
All right. Yeah. And so also in this primary vote for the news poll, the Greens are sitting at 12% and other, like independents, at 10%. That's largely unchanged. They're pretty typical numbers there. So yeah, this is catastrophically bad. We've now got open calls from right-wing pundits in the media like Peter Credlin saying that Susan Lee should resign and should do so quickly. They basically put this all down to her. And they're not just citing the debacle of, how they responded to the hate speech laws. They're also pointing out that if you look at Susan Lee's policy platform and the policies that they have made like official coalition policy for the voters to know, has actually been very limited. There's been barely anything put out there. I mean, okay, they scrapped net zero, even though they still have it as like an ambition.
She doesn't care. That's the point. Like she doesn't
Well,
care about any of this shit.
she wanted to keep net zero. She only did it because of the Nationals demanding it. Because that was another thing that the Nationals were willing to walk away from the coalition over if they didn't get what they wanted on net zero. I would argue that's a good thing, though. I would say that they probably should have stood up for scrapping net zero long ago, but nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, I can't really think of anything else. Obviously they critique just about everything that Labor does, but they don't really put forward much of their own policies. And Peter Credlin, I was just watching her monologue earlier on Sky News. She compared that to Tony Abbott, who, when he took over as leader from Malcolm Turnbull, within 8 months had a full-fledged coalition platform out there. Susan Lee has very, very little. There's also the fact that, she's a moderate, and those at Sky News and The Australian, etc., well, all those journalists are not moderates. They're hard right conservatives, as they say. And another real stinger for Susan Lee is the former frontbencher, Jane Hume. She was also doing the media rounds today. And while she didn't call for Susan Lee to resign, she did say that something desperately needs to change in the coalition, and it needs to change now. She was asked about the poll numbers that I just read out, and she started it off by saying, I'm asked about these polls all the time, and my answer is always the same, which is there's only one poll that matters, and so I don't comment on these sporadic news polls that come out. But then she said, well, I'm going to break with convention and say, no, this is catastrophically bad news for the coalition. Now, Jane Hume, you got to remember, is from the right faction. She also backed Angus Taylor against
a poet and a dramatic.
Yeah, and perhaps most importantly, I need to point out that Susan Lee demoted her to the backbench, which, you know, again, maybe you could argue it's a factional thing, but uh, Jane Hume.
Girl boss problem.
But remember, Jane Hume was doing shadow IR before the last election, and that was the one where she basically said, like, you're a lazy sod if you work from home. You remember that? That was,
Yeah,
and that was not well received by the public,
everyone.
and in fact, the coalition had to reverse their policy on working from home arrangements because of that. But anyway, it is now being said that a leadership challenge is inevitable. Andrew Hastie, of course, is ruled out now, and so that basically just clears the way for Angus Taylor. Now, again, over at Sky News, they're saying that that leadership challenge will happen before the end of this week. So, yeah. They're not always right over at Sky News. However, they do get, them and the Australian do get a hell of a lot of anonymous on the record comments from members of the coalition. They do get a lot of those. You know, they don't tend to speak to the ABC, but they do speak to the Australian and Sky News. And they seem to be hinting that a leadership challenge is in the works right now. And Susan Lee may only have a few days left as opposition leader.
We shall see. Also, like, we won't see. We fucking know.
Oh, look, it'll happen. I can't see her surviving to the next election. I mean, geez, what's her record? Like dismantling the coalition twice, taking their primary vote down to 18%, giving One Nation a boost ahead of them that has never happened in their history before. It's not a very good resume.
Destroying the coalition.
Yeah.
And allowing for it to happen. I mean, like, oh, God.
Well, you know, Jane Hume, again, just referring to that interview that she did this morning, she actually said that she believes if nothing changes, if we just go to the next election as is, she said that the coalition, that is both the Liberals and the Nationals, would not end up with a single seat in New South Wales and Victoria.
Good.
Now, I thought that was a bit exaggerated. I don't think it'll quite go that far. In fact, you know, I think that a lot of Nationals voters may actually view this in a positive way. Liberal Party voters won't, but some National voters kind of like when they see disagreement with the Liberal Party, because there's been a long held criticism that the National Party is beholden to the Liberal Party. You know, they're very much junior partners in that coalition, and it's these urbanite white-collar toffs telling people in the bush what to do.
Well, we do have the polls.
Yeah. Well, yes, and you know, it is basically like that. And, you know, that's why the National Party has so many people who leave. You know, I mean, got to remind everyone Bob Catter was part of the National Party. And he left for precisely that reason. He thought that they were selling out to the Libs and selling out to big agriculture.
So One Nation?
So I think actually just like the day after we did our last show, Pauline Hanson was actually talking about doing a three-way coalition. Yes. So she reminded everyone, and I'm glad she said this, that she still considers herself to be a conservative at heart. So, you know, she basically will say that, you know, I didn't leave the Liberal Party left me. That kind of thing.
It's not that you're Jewish.
Yeah, well, actually what happened was the Liberal Party disendorsed her during the 1996 election for comments she made on Aboriginal welfare. but it was so close to election day that they didn't have time to reprint the ballots. So she actually appeared as a Liberal Party candidate in the seat of Oxley, and that's how she was elected. um, Pauline Hanson is a very much an accidental politician. Um, I doubt if it wasn't for that, I don't think anyone would have even heard of her. And that's because, look, like I said last week, I won't repeat too much of it, but she's not a very smart woman. She's certainly not a savvy political tactician. And historically, since the party was registered in 1997, One Nation have just shown that they do not run a well-oiled party machine, and they've been racked by scandal and resignations and defections. And basically, what you're seeing in the coalition right now, One Nation have been going through that since their inception. And that's why I don't see, One Nation becoming a future opposition.
For all that
Yeah.
is listening, like literally, One Nation has watered down their rhetoric to the point they're basically a right-leaning party.
Yeah, well, look, for the Americans and those out there
yes,
who might not understand this, yeah, I mean, look, you could argue that One Nation, in a way, is like the Reform Party. I keep hearing that comparison being made. You could also say that they're like somewhat more Trumpian in that they're populist. And then, of course, you can go and compare them to other parties like in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders' Party for Freedom, stuff like that. But, it's what's tragic, though, is that One Nation didn't always, they weren't always like that. They were actually like a soft ethno-nationalist party back in the day. Pauline Hanson said we were in danger of becoming swamped by Asians, and that they had their own language, formed ghettos, and did not assimilate. She won't even say that about Muslims now, for God's sake. And she went into the Senate wearing a scarf in the colors of the Israeli flag. Okay? She does shit like that. So, but look, could I see a future? Could I see a future coalition with One Nation in it? Yes, because let's remember that Labor is only attracting about 1/3 of the vote, or 1/3 of the primary vote, that is. Even at the last election, they picked up only a little over 1/3 of the primary vote. So it's always possible that you end up in a hung parliament. And what Pauline Hanson is essentially saying is that if she were the kingmaker or the queenmaker or whatever you'd call her in such a parliament, well, she would end up siding with the Libs and the Nats. That's essentially what she said. And that might mean that she would demand ministerial positions for members of One Nation, which I assume would mean her, assuming that she's still in by then. I got to point out, Hanson is what, like 71 now, I think? She's
trying to put her daughter in place. But, by the way, her daughter not
she's running in Tasmania. Yeah, but Hanson is 71 now. So, she's no spring chicken. But yeah, look, this could even make things worse, though, because, a lot of people think that when she eventually retires, she's just going to parachute James Ashby into her Senate spot. And God help us all if that happens. Okay, now, oh God, I was just going to mention quickly Andrew Hastie bringing in the art of war into Parliament.
Tragic goy, Andrew Hastie. Tragic goy, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and look, one of the other stories we have is that his office here in WA was vandalized. Someone spray painted the words "traitor goy."
It was me, I swear to God.
It's obviously to do with him voting for the hate speech laws. And did you see that statement he put out? He was like, "Oh, look, if we didn't vote for it, Labor were going to do a deal with the Greens." Um, it's like whatever deal they may have done with the Greens, the legislation would have looked the same. I mean, honestly, what is different between like the two separate bills that they put through and the original omnibus bill? I mean, the only thing that I could see in there was just in terms of wording, saying that a hate group could only be prescribed if they are found to incite violence. Compared to before, a hate group could simply be prescribed a hate group for, having certain rhetoric. Um, the problem is though, it's very easy to manipulate things and make a group like NSN, you know, make it look like they're inciting violence against certain ethnic groups or whatever. Um, and that's why the NSN disbanded. So essentially, we've ended up with the same result, even if they did slightly reword things. So, yeah.
Oh well.
Okay. Oh yeah, Clive Palmer. I
Oh,
hope he is. I hope he isn't back in the news cycle much more often than what we've been finding. But oh
why is
god,
he
he
in?
was in. So look, he was in Canberra late last week, where he said that he is, oh god, going through yet another high court challenge, and this is to challenge the caps that are on political spending and donations. Now, of course, he has an interest there because he pumps tens of millions of dollars into political campaigns and advertising. Um, but at long last, it, I don't think he has a registered political party. That was another thing he went to court over, was he was fighting to keep his own party registered. I think, as far as I know at the moment, Palmer does not have a political party.
Let's
So,
see.
well, yeah, well, look, when he was like cross-examined at that press conference at Parliament, he did actually float the possibility of pumping funding into the Nationals, which remember he used to do. Uh, he first kind of cut his teeth in politics in Queensland, funding the state Nationals there. Um, actually, no, I
No, it
should say,
doesn't.
yeah, yeah, no, South Australia, wasn't it? Actually, is where he started. Um, then Queensland. Is that what you were going to say?
No, like he doesn't have a party at all.
Oh, you just checked that, did you?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, anyway, all right. Well, look, he said this. He said, I've had discussions with the Nats, not with David Littleproud on leadership, but with members I've known for years just talking about the situation. I've said to the Nationals, well, what do you think you're going to do? Because before you can talk about funding support or anything, you've got to know what you're going to do. And they didn't know what they were going to do. So he's leaving the door open there. Um, it was also pointed out that in the last financial year, the Nationals raised $14.3 million, which apparently is well below what they're used to. That would obviously, in part, be less members signing up. We also know that the Liberal Party, their membership base is kind of falling apart as well. In fact, I believe that in one of the states they have more, the Libertarian Party actually has more members than the Liberal Party.
What?
Yeah, I heard that somewhere. Don't hold me to that, but I did hear someone say that. Um, so yeah, they're in trouble. But no, I just think that, like, look, if we end up seeing more One Nation MPs, you're just going to see One Nation making a dick of themselves publicly again, and their support will just fall away, like it has done previously, like it did in Queensland when they had actually quite a big electoral win back in the late 90s. Uh, that was it. They had like one claim to fame. About half of them defected, and it was over for them.
Now
Okay.
are we talking about Gaza and Israel?
Well, just quickly, I was going to say that the former chief minister of the Northern Territory, Adam Giles, he was the guy who used to have a gig on Sky
Right.
News, and I don't know if you remember when Sky News got into deep shit because they had an interview with Blair Cottrell.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And
History
the
doesn't
Victorian
end.
government, in response, the Victorian government actually banned Sky News playing at the train stations in Sydney. um, or was it? No, sorry, not Sydney. In Melbourne. In Melbourne. Uh, well,
History
anyway,
ends for
that was
you, Finian,
that.
but it doesn't end for us. But it ends for you.
Well, that interview was done by Adam Giles. That infamous Sky News interview. That was like the 1/4 Aboriginal Adam Giles who was interviewing um, Blair Cottrell. Anyway, he made comments where um, he basically came out in support of Pauline Hanson and One Nation. So look, they have the country Liberal Party in the
Okay.
Northern Territory, but uh, they're aligned mainly to the Nationals. Just like Jacinta Price was aligned to the Nationals before she joined the Liberal Party. Um, and anyway, after that, the Nationals wrote him a please explain letter saying, like, why have you said this when you're a member of the Nationals? And, well, now he's quit. I don't know if he's actually signed up to One Nation, but he is publicly supporting them. And, God, you know what he's doing now for a living? Uh, he works in
Sucking
Victoria.
dick.
Well, no, it's a woman's feminine penis. It's Gina Reinhardt he works for.
Oh,
Uh, so he works for Hancock
black man.
Agriculture. Yeah. Okay.
So, Israel and Gaza.
Yes. We've done Andrew Hastie. So, of course, Isaac Herzog, Lord Zog, as we dubbed him. Well, he's in Australia right now. I
Yep.
believe this morning he went to Bondi Beach, laid a wreath and some pebbles that were apparently taken from Jerusalem, and laid them down at the shrine that
Oh,
they
so
have at Bondi.
terrible. Oh God.
Yeah.
That's so terrible though. I can. It's so terrible that you actually can be here, fucking Isaac.
Yeah. Well, look, there were definitely protests. However, there were huge areas that were restricted. Uh, this, of course, came in after Bondi. There was 2 weeks of just no protests at all were allowed. After that, there's been huge parts of Sydney that have been deemed to be restricted areas. So basically, the protesters weren't able to get anywhere near him. They like, for example, they weren't allowed to protest at Bondi, of course.
Of
Um,
course, yes.
uh, Police were everywhere. They were granted additional powers, even though they called Free Palestine Now or something. They actually took that to court. They tried to challenge it. They were defeated. And oh, by the way, if you don't know much about Isaac Herzog, so look, he's the president, which is an apolitical, like ceremonial role, even though he's the head of state, kind of like the governor general here. But he was actually from the Israeli Labor Party. Um, and so he's supposed to be like not a total right wing hawk like you would think Benjamin Netanyahu is. Uh, However, it has been argued that ever since he moved into the presidency, that he has sort of become more of a hawk. He's even considering just pardoning Benjamin Netanyahu when it comes to all of those corruption charges that he's up on. And what I guess is most controversial about him is that after October 7, he said that all of Gaza were collectively responsible, which a lot of people have interpreted as calling for genocide, basically saying, well, they're all equally responsible, wipe them all out.
From the
He says
sliver
that was
to
taken
the
out of context.
I was gonna say, from the sliver to the statement, genocide is now a flip-flop statement.
Well, what's the death count we have now in Gaza?
85,000.
Wow. Oh, God. And I'm just reading here that some people think it could go as high as 200,000. Because even though there's like, a so-called ceasefire in place, I mean, didn't Israel actually start bombing Gaza like 3 days after the first ceasefire was brokered? Something like that.
They bombed humanitarian fucking exit fills. So yeah,
Yeah, like
again,
days
like
after.
I'm working with like UN numbers, but yeah, no, they're all liars.
Yeah. So look, a lot of people were not happy about this. Ed Husick, backbencher for Labor, and I believe he was their first ever Muslim MP. He said that he is uncomfortable. He does oppose it. That's breaking with his leader, with the Prime Minister, because Isaac Herzog was actually invited by Anthony Albanese. Um, one of his many ways of trying to show that he really is friends with international Jewry. We've had one man who apparently has made death threats against Herzog, man in Sydney, so he's been arrested over that. Now, Herzog said that him visiting Australia will help repair the fractured relationship between the two countries.
Fuck off.
But what does that mean exactly? I mean, the fractured relationship is just that, like, Bibi and Rabbi Shmuley say that Albo hasn't kissed enough Jewish ass. I mean, how many different pieces of legislation have we rammed through parliaments at both the state and federal level to appease
Well,
them?
it's indigenous people coming back to the land, right?
I mean, we've got this bloody anti-Semitism Royal Commission. We've got a special envoy against anti-Semitism.
Doesn't fucking
We've got these speech codes. We've got inquiries going on at like universities and stuff. You just want to know, like, how much more do you want out of this? How much further can Albo like bend over for you?
How much white blood?
Oh, one other fun fact about Herzog is just like David Draymond from Disturbed, that terrible band.
Yeah.
There's a photo of him signing Israeli artillery shells. What is with that? Are Jews the only people who do that? Like sign rockets and shit?
Yes and no. Against Hitler. The Germans considered like uncouth.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just want to read out the exact quote from Isaac Herzog about Gazans being collectively responsible. He said, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It is not true, this rhetoric about civilians who were not aware or not involved. It is absolutely not true." Yeah. I don't know, that seems pretty clear to me what he means there.
What the fuck?
Okay, now, there is an upcoming Newcastle Writers' Festival, very much like the Adelaide Writers' Festival, but this one is in New South Wales. Randa Abdel-Fattah is going to be there. She is this controversial political academic who compared Zionism to white supremacy. And what a
The
surprise, Chris
ABC,
Minns.
yes, the ABC, removed her from one, and now she is the star position in the other.
Oh yeah,
But
this is
I'll put it this way: I'll do a TRSism. She's good.
well. Look, she's benefiting enormously from all of this because she gets a hell of a lot of media attention, and Chris Minns has written a public letter condemning the move, which is what Peter Malinauskas did in South Australia. However, it doesn't look like the Newcastle Writers Festival is going to capitulate here. They seem pretty intent on having her as a guest. And yeah, I mean, all this stuff is done. You know, these attempts to cancel her in various forums have simply raised her public profile. Um, I don't know if we would have even heard of her if it wasn't for all this stuff. You know?
No, you wouldn't.
All right. Okay, now the anti-Semitism envoy that I just mentioned before. Um, the Australian right is putting pressure on them to strip funding from universities and arts bodies. So part of this anti-Semitism envoy is investigating where public money goes in terms of promoting, let's say, anti-Israel sentiment. So, I mean, yeah, look, the arts, as we know, is thoroughly left-wing.
Of course, yes.
So, Australian universities, you know, it was the slow walk through the institutions that the left started back in the 60s. And so a lot of Jewish groups really hate the fact that public money goes into this. Now, apparently, it could take months for that envoy to put out its findings that would recommend cutting funding to, you know, whatever projects are out there. Um, that's despite the fact that you've got Gillian Siegel heading that envoy, who is absolutely a Jewish supremacist.
Of course.
But no, I mean, again, like I think that could backfire as well. Uh, you know, if they were to say cut funding for some theatre production or something like that, that would end up generating a lot of media attention, and then people from the private sector would step in to fund it instead. And it would probably be a bigger hit than what it was before because it suddenly gets free advertising with the media attention. So,
well, I wish it did.
Another case where it could just backfire on them. Okay. All right, let's get on to the issue of hate speech and protesting. So we're going to go to Queensland first. So they've announced their own round of hate speech reform. Now, this includes bans on two controversial slogans or chants. One of them is "Globalise the Intifada," and the other is, of course, "From the River to the Sea." This was the result of direct Jewish lobbying. They consider both of those phrases to be coded speech for ending the state of Israel, essentially. It's kind of silly what they've done here. From for the protests that were in Sydney this morning, someone had a placard that said "Global Loose the Angelata." So, you know, people will.
Under the head getter.
Yeah. People will work around these things. You know, like banning chants or banning certain symbols or whatever. You know, it's pretty easy to come up with something new, something that won't qualify, but everyone still knows what it means.
Of course.
So, we're at farcical levels now. Jacob Assange is in jail right now for like doing half
Being
a
a
Roman
naughty boy.
salute. You know, he's going to be in jail for a month because
Yep.
he did half a Roman salute, which is like tyrannical, but like just farcical at the same time. Um, so Tony Abbott was saying that judges should not decide when a political protest was justified or not. Um, Geez, I'm really torn on this one because uh, basically uh, judges will just approve like pretty much every single like Palestinian protest or every Extinction Rebellion protest uh, because the judiciary, just like the arts sector and universities, is also pretty thoroughly left wing. Like the legal profession as a whole is like pretty damn left wing now, you know. And it didn't used to be like that. But I don't know. I just wish we had more of our own protests. Um, we've had 3 March for Australia's. I hope we have many more. I hope many more people turn up to them. And I hope we can do them with frequency because uh, that's how you make the most impact. Palestinian protests have made an enormous impact because they attract large amounts of people and they've been having their protests often. I think we should do the same thing. Okay, now over in New South Wales, they already have their hate speech laws on the books, um, and they're looking to target teachers now or school staff who poison young minds. Um, so, hate speech will be prohibited in the codes of conduct set out by all school sectors and will now apply to all members of school staff. So, even if you're the cleaner, I guess. Um, you can't say something like globalize the intifada. Um, so Chris Means, the Premier, said this: "We know young people are impressionable. We know that people who are in positions of authority, particularly educators, are responsible for shaping their views and outlooks in the years ahead." Well, of course. Um, Schools are essentially indoctrination centres. But you know what? Stephen Menz, I mean, these people are of your political persuasion. Most of them, anyway. I mean, you're a fantastic butt goy. Like the Jews love uh, Stephen Min, Chris Minns. Uh, they love him because, like, well, for example, he went to every funeral for every Bondi victim, which is like what they wanted Anthony Albanese to do. I just have to think, why is it that like a public servant of that profile has to spend all their time going to funerals? I mean, surely they have like real work to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, Chris Minns has basically copped no flack. So it goes to show you, it's not a left or a right thing. Uh, yes, it's true that Jews mainly support the conservative right in Australia, and historically that's always been the case. But that's simply because they see them as the most pro-Israel. When it comes to Chris Minns, even though he's from Labor, they see a very obedient butt goy, and they like that, so they throw their support behind him. Um, Now, still with the Minns government, a review into the effectiveness of New South Wales hate speech laws is being withheld. Now, apparently, this report that was commissioned by the Attorney General in May last year was actually completed and handed to the government back in November, but it still has not been made public. So the Min's government is saying that it will be released soon, although they have not told us when. And this is to do with the law that I can't remember. They may have amended it or they added it. And this was Section 93ZAA. Now, I'm reading here that this state law, New South Wales law, is apparently the one that was used to charge Brandon Koshel. So he was the one who made the apparently anti-Jewish speech at the Sydney March for Australia. At the time, I remember reading that he was charged under the Commonwealth laws. So I don't know. Maybe he's actually been charged with both, and that serves as a reminder to people that, do be very careful, because if they are able to ping you for something, they might actually be able to ping you twice. Once under state law, once under Commonwealth law. So it's it's important to be careful. Now, I'm also just wondering, this report, even though it's commissioned by a Labor Attorney General, maybe the reason why they're reluctant to release it is because, maybe it concludes that it's having a kind of chilling effect on freedom of speech. There's not been many people who have been charged under it. According to the Australian, only 3 people have been charged, and one of them is Brandon Koshel. Interesting. That doesn't mean the laws aren't having an effect, though. They may well have just terrified people, and people are just increasingly afraid to say certain things, whether that be in private conversation or on social media or wherever. The report may well have something to say about that, and it may well conclude that Australians are intimidated into silence. Okay, and the final story on speech and protests. The laws we were just talking about in New South Wales are going to become a reality in Victoria as well. So the same kind of chants, globalise the Intifada, that kind of thing, they're going to outlaw those as well in the coming weeks in Victoria, in the most progressive state in the country. Okay, now, I did say that we were recording this show on a Monday. Unfortunately,
sorry.
had some technical issues, and here we are on a Wednesday now. So we are a little late, and obviously more stories have come in. We're going to save them for next week, except for one, because this is a pretty big one, and that is that Angus Taylor has resigned from the front bench of the.
Now, I thought this was going to be a liquidation of the party, considering like a lot of the backing or part backing was with him. I do actually concur with you, Finian, that this would be now a grounds for a challenge.
Well, it can't be anything but that. I mean, look, many commentators were predicting that the challenge would come this week, or at least, it would start to be kicked off. And, how do you do that? You resign and then you challenge. Sometimes you don't do it straight away. Sometimes you just resign. In this case, Angus Taylor tendered his resignation and then did a press conference where he said that he does not believe Susan Lee has the leadership ability to take the Liberal Party and the coalition where they need to go. He didn't really differentiate himself from Susan Lee, though. Of course, he didn't say that he was going to challenge. He wouldn't answer those questions. It's obvious that he will, though. And people are saying that it's probably going to come by Friday, or possibly early next week, so that they've got the weekend to crunch the numbers, do negotiating, and everyone makes their final decision. But it was a pretty
God.
pathetic press conference, because all he did was come out with cliches talking about the need for stable leadership that is based on Liberal Party values and things like that. So, okay, specifically though, Angus, what do you want? What's wrong? Like, name some policies, name some principles that Susan Lee is not living up to, some values that she's not living up to. He didn't do any of that. He
Is there any
just
way
came
to
out.
actually tank this shit right into the ground before it starts?
Well, so look, obviously this story is only just broken, so I haven't read a lot about it. But my understanding so far is that most people in the conservative right, even though Angus Taylor is considered to be of that faction, they're still not really keen on him. The person they were keen on was Andrew Hastie. So
You
I've
got
also
called traitor Goy.
who got called traitor Coy, definitely. However, the conservative right still back Andrew Hastie. You know, the Sky News viewers, the Australian newspaper readers, they still like Andrew Hastie, even if maybe they didn't like the fact that he voted for these laws. But remember, Andrew Hastie has figured out that he doesn't have the numbers, and I think he was sort of, he was put up there as this Chad poster boy of the conservative right. But the problem was, he's relatively new to Parliament. He's young. He's inexperienced, and seems
He threw Ben
based
Roberts-Smith under the bus.
he did that too. Yes. So he doesn't actually have as much support within the Liberal Party as what a lot of people have been saying. Angus Taylor, he's older. He's still. I'm not sure if he has ministerial experience. If he does, it's limited.
He's up jumped. He's not blue blooded. That's one of the problems that he actually will have to overcome if he wants to be a head of the Liberal Party.
Yeah, well, look, I was watching Andrew Bolt before. Yeah, and he said, well, the headline on the title that Sky News gave this video was "I don't get it," and he was basically saying that all this is going to do is further destabilize the Liberal Party, as if they need that at the moment. But also, I'm reading that when it comes to numbers between him and Susan Lee, it's actually very close. This is not like some shoe-in for Angus Taylor. I know some people think that. They think that Susan Lee's leadership is just so terminal that they'll go with anyone. Well, not necessarily. There's definitely no guarantee here that Angus Taylor wouldn't turn out to be the same kind of dud that Susan Lee is. So it could very well be that, okay, fine, we get a leadership spill, but Angus Taylor may lose that, or he may win it and continue to tank in the polls just like Susan Lee is. That is certain.
I was gonna say, like, are we talking about the two fucking parasites, like eating the fucking intestines of a dead horse?
Kind of. And at the same time, one other story I will read is that there was another poll this morning.
Sorry.
What?
Oh, sorry. Like, that analogy was terrible. I'm sorry.
Oh, all right. There was a poll that came out this morning that had Labor's primary vote on 30%. Now, of course, they're still doing better than the coalition, but their last primary vote in news poll was 33%. We mentioned that at the beginning of the episode. So, that's actually pretty bad as well. That's under 1/3 of the vote. So, All right.
We do have a negative delta here.
Yeah, so Labor may be polling better than any other party, but could they actually hold a majority is another question. So, that three-way coalition, Libs, Nats, and One Nation, it's possible. It's possible that One Nation could be kingmakers, but, will they ever actually be the official opposition? Well, no, I don't think that'll ever happen. All right. So let's move on. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Australia Day / Invasion Day terror attack because, well, it has now actually been, it's official. It's official that this was an act of terror. Okay.
It went from intent to, yes, terrorism.
Yeah. And the ABC even had this explainer article as to why it took so long to be called terrorism, whereas, the Bondi shooting was called terrorism straight away. It was like, well, isn't it fucking obvious? You gun down 15 people and, it's ragheads doing it to Jews. Well, I mean, obviously, that's terrorism right there. But
buddy, be careful.
A bomb that doesn't even go off, and you're not even really sure it is a bomb, and there's no injuries and there's no death. Well, obviously that's not as clear cut. But still,
actually, I'll say this. I did actually get called by SIG about that. But yeah.
What did they say?
No, they threatened me again. But because I was 40 feet from it, from the actual drop site.
You questioned?
Yes.
Oh God. Okay. Jesus.
Oh come on!
You don't mind sharing that on the show?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
There it is.
There's what?
The digital interference.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Please explain your story.
Anyway, so outside of being way too fucking close to that improvised explosive device, yes, I was actually called twice by state security detectives about this, and actually, one of them decided to threaten my fucking sister, which is nice, but all in a day's work, I guess. But yeah, no, he was a. Actually, I do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there we go. He was a known leftist agitator, and his name cannot be disclosed until his sentencing. And yeah,
I'm pretty sure his picture is out there, though.
Oh yeah, it is.
Those photos of him and other people are naming him. Yeah. If you look hard enough, you can find his name. We're not going to say it here, but he has been identified.
But yeah, no, it's I don't know, like I don't like being next to an explosive device. I don't know. Do you, Finian?
No, that would So I mean, yeah, the idea, unless it was some form of suicide bombing, a very strange form of it, then I don't know why the hell they would suspect you of it.
Fuck you.
No, I'm just saying. It's just, but their logic does not actually make any sense there. You don't question the people who were among the crowd of where the bomb landed. You question people outside of it. But okay, look, if you don't know, apparently, obviously they seized his electronic devices and everything, as you do. But they're talking about how he had access to extremist literature or hateful. So our Premier Roger Cook said that the man was motivated by hateful racist ideology Um, so it was an act of terrorism driven by racism and hatred.
He was a
And
member of SALT.
okay, so the crowd was allegedly targeted because they were indigenous. Okay, first of all, most people in that crowd are not indigenous. Okay, um, and the ones that are like half quarter caste or
Mm.
quadroons or whatever. Okay, uh, full-blooded Aborigines almost never turn up to stuff like that. They're they're too busy passing the goon bag. That just doesn't happen. But it's funny, I've read multiple articles about this guy, most of them coming from the ABC, of course. And in every single one of those articles, from beginning to end, there is no mention specifically of what he actually had. They didn't mention any books, they didn't mention any like URLs, any social media, nothing. There's
His
nothing, no
shirt
example
is
whatsoever.
quite literally from a indigenous-owned business.
Is that the one with the butterflies?
Yes, the 3 butterflies. Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't understand the significance of the butterflies, but I did think, yeah, our guys do not wear butterfly t-shirts. You know, uh, I
Yeah.
took one look at him and I was like, no. And so they're out there saying that this is like, yeah, like some crazed neo-Nazi who wanted to kill a whole bunch of Aborigines on Australia Day. Um, no, this seems like it is actually a false flag from a guy. You said SALT, so Socialist Alternative, I assume.
Yes. Socialist Alternative. Yes.
Yeah, member of Socialist Alternative, who was willing to actually harm and possibly even kill members of his own side to make it look like it was, so-called far-right extremists. Is that a fair
But yeah,
summary?
no. Well, it kind of is. Yeah. Like I've got much more, but the thing is, I can't fucking tell you the rest of it.
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess we recommend people do their own kind of digging and research on this because, yeah, obviously we're limited in what we can say. We can't give his name, for example. So, but as usual, we probably don't need to tell our audience. The news, uh, they like to lie to you, especially over things like this. Um, they like to tell you that Aborigines were attacked without any reason whatsoever um, at Camp Sovereignty by Thomas Sewell and his boys. You know, uh, I saw Tom was at court today actually telling the media that the Australian people have been lied to about things like that. Well, you're being
Again,
lied
like
to about this as well.
that fucking photo though, like that photo that came out about it, like that guy with the demon face.
Who was that?
Oh no, there was a guy like he fucking had this demonic face.
They often do like that. I remember that like drag queen who was on that queer kid stuff, and it
Oh,
looks like really he does look like a demon, like a demonic figure. Okay, I'm sure we'll have more to say on that next week, if not a bit later. Um, oh well, while I'm thinking of it, I think we have some kind of an update on Joel Davis, don't we? Um, so I believe that they've got him on an extra 9 charges, and it all relates to stuff he did online. So stuff on streams or social media posts or something. He's been in jail for, I believe, 2.5 months now, and they've only just given him a Bible. And for the very first time, he got to hold his newborn baby. Um, of course, the
thank
birth
God.
of, yeah, so he missed the birth, of course, and obviously he's missed the whole Christmas period and everything. And denied bail 3 times. I believe they've just put in a Supreme Court application So obviously that means they're going to a higher court. They're not going to the magistrate.
Yep.
And generally speaking, cases like this have better chances of succeeding in superior courts because the superior courts do tend to be fairer, let's say.
Yeah. Even Tom said that, actually.
Yes. So there's also a give, send, go if you guys want to.
And
See.
actually, could you send me that?
The give, send, go.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it in there, and we'll put it in the info for today's episode as well. If you want to contribute to his legal fund, you can do that. Okay, let me just find that. Yeah, so if you want to support Joel, go to that link in the info for today's episode. All right, so we're going to move on to foreign affairs. Yeah, kind of some boring stories here, but we've signed a new security treaty with Indonesia. We seem to do this just every 5 years or so. These treaties do actually say that in the event that either of us are invaded, that the other would then go and assist militarily. But remember this,
Mutual.
but most observers remind us that these kind of treaties are symbolic. Obviously, there's no way of legally enforcing them. And we know that, well, countries break security pacts all the time. You can look at World War II and find numerous examples of that, for example. So, doesn't mean all that much. So, a new report is saying that Australia needs to do more to grow its relationship with Taiwan. So, not surprising.
America.
This
Is
is coming
America
from the
asking
United
this?
States.
Yeah,
well, look, the think tank that put out this report is called the United States Studies Center. So, I think you, yeah, that kind of tells you all you need to know. So the report does say, well, look, that would risk making China angry, of course. But, Taiwan is on the side of freedom and all of that. So that is precisely why we need a stronger relationship with them. And also, well, you see, Australia has blocked Taiwan and their bid to join trade pacts, which is cutting them off from economic opportunities. And the United States says that is unfair as well. No, look, there's going to be a ground invasion of Taiwan in the next few years. I'm convinced of that. Many observers have been saying the same kind of thing.
That's a bet I'll take.
That's what?
That's a bet I'll take.
Yeah, and well, something else I'll bet on is that when China eventually does that, no one will stop them. No one. Okay. No. Taiwan certainly can't defend themselves, and no one is going to risk a broader conflict by getting involved there. It's not like with Russia and Ukraine, where Ukraine actually did have the capacity to fight back, and continues to do so with Western intervention and funding. But who's going to help out Taiwan, which is like a tiny nation? Ukraine is massive. It may not be as big as Russia, obviously, but Ukraine, like geographically for a country, is very, very big. Taiwan is tiny. No, Chinese troops will just perhaps roll in without a shot being fired.
The Taiwanese already feel that that's going to happen. But again, that's that fucking strait, the Taiwanese strait,
Well,
I don't want to fucking like be fucking be geopolitical fucking like a god here, but like look at mobile American oil rigs in Taiwan Strait. They're gone. They left there about 5 years ago. The Big Eagle was serviced for maintenance down here about 8 years ago. It didn't return.
right. Hey, by the way, I'm just having a look at the give send go for Joel Davis. Uh, the goal was $40,000 and it has not been reached yet. However, they've raised $30,435 so far. Oh, God, that would make Chris Cantwell so angry. Compare that to the $55 that he has raised so
Fucking
far.
Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Now, finally, on foreign affairs, at least one quarter of the Border Force's Cape class patrol boats are undergoing maintenance on land. And that's all while we've actually been detecting a record amount of illegal fishing boats in Queensland waters, in our waters. So, you know, Border Force does not just keep people smugglers away, it's also people who do illegal fishing, sometimes even illegal whaling, yeah, like the Japanese. But there's a whole heap of fishing boats that, of course, mainly come from Indonesia that invade our waters all the time. And I'm surprised, actually, that the coalition haven't seized on this, or at least I haven't noticed it, uh,
They
because
haven't.
attacking them for, like, not supporting the border force enough, that at least was a very favorite thing of the Liberal Party to do. You know, one of their most famous slogans is "Stop the boats," um, and that goes
Hey,
for fishing boats.
Tony Burke. Like, could you fucking like send your eyes on the seas rather than fucking decent men?
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather him kind of focus on the aeroplanes that bring over lots of legal migrants. But yeah, I mean, why isn't something like this a priority? Yet, you know, people who are over here on visas who have traveled, come here perfectly legally, obeyed all of our laws, held down jobs, paid taxes in our country. No, we have to send them back, don't we? Because they think Australia should remain white.
That's
Okay,
terrible, isn't it?
of course. Um, all right, so on to the economy. Um, you may have noticed that the Western world has a problem with productivity. Uh, every year, it seems that aggregate levels of productivity are going down. This is a classic contradiction of capitalism, where companies try to bring in cheap labor that may work for them in the short term in terms of cutting costs and maybe not really increasing productivity, but keeping it at about the same level. Then, of course, what happens is those people who you've imported, well, they start having families, they have kids, and they start regressing to the mean, meaning that their kids are much more likely to be unemployed. They're much more likely to, say, take out a workers' compensation claim. They're more likely to slack off at work and just generally be worse workers. And that ends up happening to the entire economy as time goes on, with more and more companies importing cheap, shitty labor. It should not be any surprise that after a while that leads to declining rates of productivity. Now, the government will insist that it's simply a matter of policy and that it can be changed no matter what kind of population you have. So Jim Chalmers has said that the next federal budget, which is not that far away, it's coming in May, is going to focus on productivity, spending restraint, and tax reform. So he said that there are going to be a raft of new measures to boost productivity. We really don't have any details on that yet. He
You
has
won't
talked
get.
about floating the idea of changing capital gains tax. The Greens have been, for a long time, been calling for capital gains tax to be increased. In fact, they're saying that the low levels of capital gains tax is actually one of the primary drivers of housing inaffordability. No, it's not. The Greens will just literally do anything to shift the blame away
Obfuscate.
from migration. They do this all
But
the
yeah,
time. They'll say capital gains tax is too generous, or negative gearing is too generous, and you know what? Like,
development. Like when it comes to development, they can't develop fast enough. That's why, isn't it? Oh wait.
yeah. Well, look, you know, if migration were not the problem would be how difficult it is to shore up new land for development. And look, like I know it's a bit different over east, but here in the west, you know, if you start just driving just a little bit east, just a little bit, you know, you see all of this fucking empty land, like that's just doing nothing. And you know, I'm not saying develop all of it because I think it's good to still have forests and nature walks and everything that you can go to and kind of escape civilization. But we have enough to do both. All right, we can develop a shitload of land, and we can maintain enough to still not live in a concrete jungle. Um, but the Greens are always saying that there's some breed of lesbian beetle or something in this forest, and that means you can't develop it. Um, so
Oh,
just
there you
about
go.
everything Greens support puts pressure on housing prices. But they're saying, oh no, we just need to increase capital gains tax and scrap negative gearing, and then that'll like solve everything. Like fuck it will. Okay.
Did you see the Sikhs angels?
Okay, now we did, as we mentioned before, get another interest rate rise. I believe this is the 13th rise in a row under Labor. We're at 3.85%, I believe. The
Yes, we are.
Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock said that government spending was a factor. It's funny when you read the Australian headline, that's the way they say it, is like uh, government spending was a factor, despite Jim Chalmers and Albanese denying such. But then when you read the ABC, they point out that Michelle Bullock said that government spending isn't the only factor. Well, of course. There's all sorts of things.
Including a 5% deposit.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, contributing to these housing affordability schemes in their various forms, that also, that increases demand for houses, and that puts pressure
That's a
on interest
fucking
rates too.
grenade. That's a
Yes.
fucking grenade.
Yeah. Which the Liberal Party mentions sometimes, but not really that much.
Hey,
It's
like
I mean,
we got to
we
give
have a
banks
problem
like
with
we got to give banks leverage over here. Like by the way, like you're fucking like a level to entry is going to be lower, But also, like, we're going to flood the fucking market with borrowers like you. Is that the worst
Yeah.
thing humanly imaginable?
I mean, we have an issue with far too little supply and far too much demand. And so the government's solution to that is, well, we'll increase demand while we don't increase supply. That's just fucking retarded. It's not even economics 101. That's economics for retards.
That's good.
Yes.
That's the title.
No, I think I got that off someone, so I don't want to. I don't want to steal it. Okay, so Jim Chalmers has also asked ASIC to restrict public access to the residential addresses of company directors. Okay, I hope you haven't been doing that in your Sherlock Holmes work, Nolsey. But I do remember
I
covering at
can't
least
confirm
one
or deny.
story. No, this is the kind of thing that Extinction Rebellion do. You know, they find the addresses of like CEOs and managing directors of resources companies, and they go and stage protests at their house. Uh, so this is actually something that they've been lobbying the
They're
government for
terrified
a
about.
while. Yeah, and no, I guess I'm, you know, rare for me to say that I feel sorry for like a multimillionaire or even a billionaire, but I don't think you should be allowed to, you know, like have that freely available so that you can turn up at their house and harass them, or try to film them and things like that. I mean, that is going a bit over the top. Um,
It does sound OTT,
Doxing.
over the top.
I mean, it's like a legal form of and like an organized form of doxing in a way, you know. Okay, let's go on to
I do
housing.
like to go after criminals, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of stories on housing. This section seems to get bigger every week. Okay, so
Again,
they are the government is building houses, public housing, that is, in the remote Gulf of Carpentaria. This is in Queensland, and the mayor of this town and many of the residents are saying, "Do you realise this is actually a part of Queensland that frequently floods?" So I'm suspecting that, you know, this is a place just where land is cheap, or at least cheaper than it is in the rest of Australia. So government's getting desperate. They want to put housing anywhere they can, and that includes places like this. Now, this again, obviously, there's the migration question, but also, as I was talking about, like land development before and making it legal to actually develop, you know, here's an example of where it's legal to develop, but in an area where you don't want it because it floods all the time. And, you know, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. We've covered also like the increase of squatters who are in land that has been, or in houses that have basically been condemned. You're not allowed to live there, and you're not allowed to buy or sell property either because of how flood prone it is. But you get some people who are so desperate that they go and squat in that land. So again,
that's nice.
I'm sure.
Again, like one of my friends, Jordan Vanderlam, has shitrentals.org. You should go and look at that.
Shitrentals.org, was it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've already covered a few like of these places that are dumps, and that, you know, ordinarily you wouldn't even be allowed to rent them out. But with circumstances as they are, and with people willing to pay for almost anything, um, yeah, I mean, it's either that or sleep on the street. So,
Again,
But
there's one fucking solution. There's one answer to all of this.
of course, but also like I'm sure there's plenty of perfectly habitable, safe land in Queensland that could be developed even for public housing. But we just have so much green tape that we end up doing dumb shit like this.
Or
Okay.
development. Or
Now the next story.
Private landowners.
Did you see this next story? This is a gem that the noticer picked up.
Oh yes.
A driveway. Yes, a driveway in inner city Sydney in Newtown, which is like sort of an entertainment precinct in Sydney. This is a 4-meter wide block of land. The only building that's on it besides the concrete is a small garden shed. This sold to a developer, and it's 110 square meters. This sold to a developer for $1.25 million. Okay? Yes, 110 square meter driveway in Newtown went for
I'm surprised it wasn't 2.2
million. This comes as the median house price for Sydney is now $1.76 million. Okay? So that even, say, includes some houses on like the outskirts of Western Sydney. Places before that used to be considered like, almost going to the country or something. Or at least were considered like a poor man's area or
suburban.
a dog. Yeah. Now these properties are like astronomically high in price. I mean, great if you're an owner, and even better if you're an investor, but holy fuck. This is why, we need to stop talking about slowing the growth in housing prices or something. No, fuck that. We need the housing market to collapse. Okay? It needs. Yes. The bubble needs to be burst. A lot of boomers need to have their share portfolios destroyed. A lot of investors need to go bankrupt. And we need housing prices to collapse in this country. That is what you need if you actually want to talk about getting the average person into a house again.
I'd lose, but I'd like to lose.
Yeah, I'm sure Ozpil would like to lose as well. Right?
Oh, fucking yes. But yeah, it needs to go down. For the sake of our people, it needs to go down.
Yes, and I commend the rich boys who are willing to sacrifice their own for this. You've checked your privilege. You've checked your privilege, Nolsey. Ozpil has checked his privilege, and that's good. All right, so yes, so the National Rental Affordability Scheme, that is coming to an end soon. Obviously, that is something that is out there to protect low-income renters. Now, we're set to have a bunch of new houses through the Housing Australia Future Fund. However, experts say that there are not enough to replace the 36,000 homes that are on the rental affordability scheme. And also, they estimate that we need another 640,000 of those properties to meet current demand. That's current demand. Okay?
The fuck?
Right. That's over 500,000 houses. So you've got like over 500,000 people like on a waiting list to get some form of affordable housing. That's a shit ton. And yet we're still okay, fine. We're taking in less people than we are during the spike after COVID, but we're still taking in way, way more people than before COVID. Okay,
200,000 plus a year.
Yeah. All right. Oh God. So Labor is considering options for a tax policy aimed at bridging the intergenerational housing divide. That's what they want to
Killed.
call it.
What is it?
Do you have to call it that? Like, what? You mean it's called ridiculous house prices or house inaffordability, right? That's what it is.
Finian, could you tell me a joke?
I could.
Read out the policy. There it is.
Okay, so a government source has told the ABC that capital gains tax changes had not been ruled out. Well, I kind of mentioned that before. So back in November, there was a Senate committee formed to consider capital gains tax arrangements that will report sometime this year. Okay, so there we have it again. This is something that the Greens will take credit for. But I mean, well, look, you probably know more about this than I do, Nolsey. I mean, do you think tinkering with the capital gains tax is going to make a difference?
Not particularly. I think that look, developers don't actually take that kind of hit. So capital gains are like, oh yeah, so buy one property, fucking switch it out into another, etc. No, they don't fucking pay capital gains tax.
Okay, so they're saying that like if you own multiple properties, you get a 50% discount on capital gains, as compared to capital gains that you make elsewhere in shares or whatever. We have kind of a more generous system when it comes to selling property. You know what? Like, I wouldn't even be opposed to it. Okay, like if they want to get rid of these discounts, start taxing investors more. Like, I don't have a big problem with that, really. But again, it's just one of these policies where they're just tinkering with all the fine detail without getting to the nub of the issue, which is obviously we have too much demand fueled by record immigration.
There it is.
Even if you make some kind of impact, it's going to be a drop in the ocean. All of these kind of schemes are.
Is your blood getting a bit red? Is there like a hammer and sickle, like a bulming in your eye?
Well, look, I basically said like I'm indifferent to it. Like, I actually don't really care that much one way or the other when it comes to this. My issue is just I want housing to be affordable, to both rent and buy for the average person, as it used to be. That's all I want. And is that actually
as it was? Yes.
Or for, because it wasn't all that long ago that housing was affordable in this country. I just want to turn back the clock a few years, and I don't think that means I'm some raging socialist or anything.
You're a radical. I don't know.
Well, geez, we're all fringe dwellers here in these times. Okay.
Next topic.
Yeah. So.
One net fucked.
All right. So Northern Territory. So they were taken to court after they tried to hike rent prices in remote communities. So obviously, Aboriginal public housing is what we're talking about here.
Yep.
So it was ruled that by the High Court, actually, that they couldn't do that. So they're rushing legislation through now. That basically means they can circumvent that ruling. And they're saying that some of these properties can actually increase by as much as $300 a fortnight. Now, Now, look, this is a little different, okay? We're talking about properties where they destroy them and then expect the government to pay for them. And speaking of court rulings, there was a court ruling saying that basically these occupants had a right to a habitable property. And so that included, even if they were the ones responsible for making that property inhabitable. So in other words,
This shit ain't right, John. This shit ain't right.
So you can totally destroy your house, and then you have the right for the government to pay for it. Now, it's not a surprise then that that would force the government to then want to increase rent. You know, obviously, I mean they got to recoup somehow. So
again, like how many fucking times we talk about like like they need to increase the fucking level of damage that'll be done to these properties before they're considered condemned.
Yes.
How many times?
An enormous amount of times. Okay. Now, going to the South Australian government, they're going to offer low interest loans of up to $250,000, but only if you are a drought-affected farmer. Why can't we do this for everyone? So this is why we need a state bank, because the government would be perfectly capable of actually offering everyone low interest loans. If you had a state
we have
bank.
an RBA.
The RBA is a crony capitalist institution.
Yes.
I know you're being facetious there. But yeah, I mean, the idea that the RBA is out there like for the big banks. And, you know, when they first inject money into the economy, where does it go first? It goes to the big banks. And that means that they get the value.
Creditors.
They get that money at its current value without inflation, because inflation hasn't permeated through the system yet. Once that money that they get goes through the rest of the economy and people start spending it, that's when inflation occurs. But the banks have the benefit of getting that money early. And that's just one of the ways that banks benefit from having this institution known as the RBA. So yeah, I'm fine. Farmers need help. Give them low interest loans, but give everyone low interest loans, and it could be done.
It can be.
Okay, now talking about the army here. The army, the ADF, has identified 67 defence sites that are lightly used or vacant. And, they want to sell them. So this is twofold. One, they're saying that, it can raise up to $1.8 billion for the ADF, who, of course, are always screaming out for more money. And Donald Trump is always telling us to give them more money as well. But obviously the other aspect of it is that, they would free up some land for development. So here in WA, some of that land is actually right in residential zones near the Swan River.
Yes, it is. Near... Actually, I'm not going to say that.
Was one of them might have been the barracks that Ben Cousins invaded one night when he was off his head. Do you remember
that? Yes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of sites outside of Perth as well. But yeah, long story short, it looks like they are going to sell a lot of that land. So I guess that's kind of a good thing, but still, will it make a big difference? No.
Half of it is a minefield, though.
What?
Are they going to sell the mine testing field?
I assume if they did,
not.
They would get rid of the mines.
Anyway.
Okay, now, timber imports into Australia have hit record levels due to international trade disruptions that are fueled by the American tariffs. Now, much of the timber that we're getting here is coming from China, and they're buying at cheap prices. So they're saying as low as $440 a cubic meter. I don't know. Is that's cheap? Is it nosy? I really don't know when it comes to this stuff.
Neither do I. I'm normally when it comes to like timber, like I normally deal in crowns.
Yeah. So look, they're saying okay, in a way, it's good that we're getting cheap timber, but well, there's a few um, bad sides to this. One is that it's hurting our domestic timber industry, obviously. But the other thing is, how good is it? How good is Chinese timber? I mean, look, Asians use bamboo scaffolding, for God's sake, when they construct a tall building. Um, I don't know if the timber that's selling us is all that good. So, yeah, that has me worried just based on that. I don't know. It could be perfectly fine, but
It might be. We
you
shall see.
should always be skeptical about
There's a
anything.
nation. There's a
That's
nation
made in
proverb.
China.
We shall see.
Oh God. And it might come in the form of large industrial scale accidents. But yeah, we will see. Okay, now finally, um, the South Australian Liberals. So remember, there is an election coming up in March in South Australia. They've promised new stamp duty relief for homeowners looking to downsize. How about that? So
Boomers.
they've given you a discount if you move out of your larger house into a smaller one or into a unit. My God. So again here, this is the libs saying, oh yeah, like population density has to be part of the solution here. In other words, we need to cram more people into smaller blocks of land. And if we do that, we can fit more people in and free up more land. Yeah, so we can all live like fucking jungle Asians. No, that's not how we live. Okay? We have a proper house with a backyard, so the dog has enough room and the kids have enough room to play outside. You know? That used to be taken for granted.
That was the fucking place.
Okay. Okay, over to industrial relations. So, the ACTU and their secretary, Sally McManus, saying that workers need to have a pay rise that is above the current inflation rate. So they're calling for an overall 4% rise for their members. Official inflation is at 3.8%. I think that's actually a pretty modest demand by the ACTU because the inflation rate's always higher. But even given that, necessities, groceries, petrol, and property, those are always rising at a much, much higher rate than inflation. The necessities of life, things that people need. So,
Cost of living, yes.
yeah, cost of living. And of course, employer groups are saying that no, this is absolutely outrageous and that it would further fuel inflation, thus, making things even more unaffordable. No, I don't think
I
so.
do sound like a communist from fucking day to day, but yes.
So what you're supposed to do is just accept your shitty 2.5% pay rise, whatever it is, and leave the government to import even more people who get paid less than you. That creates more consumers within that economy that in turn
To
drive
borrow
up
more,
inflation.
to buy more, to consume more.
Yeah,
with
So
inside
whichever
your
way you put split,
non-elastic.
yeah. So no, this is the ACTU used to be considered militant. Now it is pretty lukewarm. That's a very modest demand that they're making there. And they're not doing the kind of industrial action that they used to. You know,
4.8 would be the best.
yeah. Um, and when they talk about things like industrial disputes nowadays, they're not talking about strikes. Like strikes just like barely ever happen at all anymore. Um, it's just certain things like sometimes they won't roster as many staff on as what's demanded or something like that. Um, the CFMEU is about the only union left, well, them and the Maritime Union, I guess, who'll actually take that kind of action if they believe it necessary. Um, and, all of these changes to IR laws that Labor brought in, like, sort of reintroducing pattern bargaining and that sort of thing, we kept getting told that that was going to be a return to like the prehistoric days of union rule. That has not happened. Okay. I've certainly not noticed it anyway.
I was gonna say,
Okay,
like,
now,
also they said, like, it would fix things. Like, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. Like, 1 year, we're gonna fix it, right?
no.
Did it happen?
No. And, well, here's something that is definitely happening more and more is they're finding that people from the Pacific Island are being underpaid.
Oh
So
yes,
Pacific Islanders,
the Polynesian slaves.
yeah, yeah, the coconuts. Um, so, as the ABC puts it, they are filling employment shortages. Now,
Why?
there was this report that was put out called the Report, which, God, what does that stand for? Pacific Australia Labour Mobility. Now, this found that many of these workers were tied to a single employer, meaning that, if they get sacked, well, they all of a sudden have no employment in the country and they could face deportation. They also are complaining about how they have lack of access to Medicare. Well, you're a foreigner. Of course, you don't get access to Medicare. I don't give a shit about that. But yeah, look, are these workers being exploited? Yeah, of course they are. They get shit wages. Sometimes they're asked to hand cash back. Sometimes they're not given their proper entitlements. And they're just told by the employer, well, if you complain about it, we'll either sack you or we'll report you to immigration. And you'll
I'll
go
stop
back
being
to
your sponsor.
your Pacific Island that is about to be flooded. It's actually not. Okay. So finally on IR, I think we spoke a little bit last week about the HSU, the Health Services Workers Union. So they're a union that is particularly plagued with scandal. Unions do get themselves into troubles every now and then, but the HSU is like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're the masters of this stuff. So Jacinta Allen is saying that her office has stepped in directly to manage negotiations here. There's been This actually goes back to like the days of Daniel Andrews, these kind of negotiations. So the government just made a pay offer of 3.3% over 3 years. Well, I mean,
What?
for starters, that's like actually well under the current inflation rate, and over 3 years.
That's an
Obviously,
insult.
yeah, that is pitiful. That is tiny. So, 97% of the HSU has rejected that offer, and I'm not surprised. I am surprised it's not 100%. I don't particularly like their ties to the Labour Party. I don't like how their leaders are sort of there
They're
just
tied to the
to.
Greens, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but so many of like their leaders, the ones at the top, they end up getting parachuted into Parliament, you know, and that's one of the biggest problems about unions in Australia today is that they're not
They're
really
led
there
by
to represent the workers. They're there to launch the political careers of upcomers, you know, like it.
they're headed by lawyers, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, you know, there was a time where, like, if you were a union leader, like, say, if you were uh, in the HSU, like, it used to be the case that, like, you would always actually be a nurse, you know, someone who actually worked in the job. And that way they have a much better understanding of their membership base. It's not like that anymore. Now it's like, you know, you do a law degree and then you go work for a union. You work in industrial relations law and you work your way to the top until you eventually get that pre-selection in the safe seat you want. You know, that's the way it works now.
Again, we can make some summations about this, but the thing is, we would be sent to jail for actually knowing what happened there.
Yeah. Anyway, I know the HSU is very corrupt and everything, but no, they're definitely right to reject such a pitiful pay offer, which was revised, by the way. I can't remember what it was they were offering them before, but it was lower. All right. On to Aborigines. So, so the Northern Territory government is being accused of protecting Indigenous communities from flooding in the Victoria Valley. So there are about 300 people in this community. No, sorry, almost 300 people from that community have been evacuated to Darwin. Now, that is what makes me think, okay, maybe you should actually improve the infrastructure here, or at least get them moved to some other remote community, because otherwise you're going to have to send them to the city, you know? I think Aborigines are better served and that we are better served when you push them further and further into the bush, you know? And you know what?
What?
Even if we have to pay for a bit of that housing or whatever, I don't really mind as long as it segregates them, you know, keeps them out of the way. So,
Kids and housed.
all right. Now,
Is
here's a good
Satan?
one.
Is Satan like trying to get into the studio?
My cat? No, she's not here.
Oh,
I'm not sure where she is actually. So look, we've only got one other Aboriginal story. This is about a high school here in WA called Roebourne. It's a regional high school. It is attended by only 141 students, or at least 141 students are enrolled, and you know, they're all Indigenous. So the government and Woodside have invested
shit.
around $93 million in this high school. Okay, so and they have like state of the art facilities there. You know, they're funded just as well as like any suburban high school. Well, they have a 30% attendance rate. Now,
What?
yeah, the education minister has said that, you see, because some of these renovations were just completed over the school holidays, you know, school recently returned, and the education minister has said that they're hopeful now that attendance for 2026 will improve thanks to the upgrades that recently finished. No, maybe they'll come and rob it. You know, like if you've got like some new science
Fucking
lab or something, and you've got some nice PCs or monitors in there, they might attend um, outside of hours and steal them. But will you actually get more kids like excited about how their school has been newly upgraded? They don't give a shit.
oh
They
my
don't care.
god.
And what amazes me is that even these resources companies are getting in on this. Whatever they think that, I don't know if there might be some ulterior motive here, but if they're trying to
There
be,
is, but
yeah, she's here now. Um, if there is some sort of philanthropic drive to this, then I mean, doesn't anyone advise them? Hey, you're pissing your money away here. Like, this is just going to total waste. You're paying for facilities that no one uses. Okay, now here's uh, a story that the ABC reported with absolute glee, and that is they just did a survey in um, the Northern Territory. And this is asking Territorians if they feel safe in their community. The amount of people who say that they feel safe has actually gone down. Now, the ABC, of course, points out that this is despite the fact that we have a recently elected country Liberal Party government that has implemented a kind of tough on crime approach, which is true. Arrests have gone up. Uh, there, there are more police. Or, they're still struggling with shortages. There's increased private security, and yeah, jails are getting bigger. That's definitely true. So the ABC points
the
out, well,
Metro
look,
Police are now are no longer actually feeding the was it getting like
the zoo.
the zoo? Yes. No. They're no longer actually feeding Darwin's police services.
Yeah, they're no
So
longer glorified babysitters. They've actually
yes.
got some institutional support behind them to allow them to do their job and arrest people and enforce the law as they're supposed to do. Now, I got to point out though that remember before the CLP came in to government, there was just this like linear progression of violent crime and property crime, mainly in just the Northern Territory as a whole. It got particularly bad in Alice Springs, of course, and we saw all of those TikTok videos and that came out. But it was happening everywhere. So what this says to me is like, well, okay, you let Aborigines get out of control. Of course, there's immigration there from a whole host of other brownoid countries that have been making things worse. So, it's going to take time to actually settle things down there. So, I don't see why, like, the ABC, of course, makes you want to think, oh, this is tough on crime policing doesn't work. Like, it doesn't provide an adequate deterrent or anything like that. Look, even if it isn't a deterrent, because, a lot of dumb criminals don't really kind of consider their long term circumstances. Still, if you jail them, you incapacitate them, you stop them from being capable of committing crimes on the outside. So I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you really want to solve this problem for long term, start sterilizing criminals. That would be the best thing you could do. It'll never happen because then you'd be accused of genocide
Eugenics.
and eugenics too. Um, but you know what? Like you wouldn't wipe out the Aboriginal race. You'd make less of them, but you'd actually improve them because yeah, it would be a eugenics program. You know, but Edward Dutton has done some stuff where he pointed out that when they used to hang people for being pickpockets, that had like enormous eugenic effects on European people. It may have been harsh, it may have been over the top, but if you're simply talking about it from a genetic point of view, like a Darwinist point of view, uh, it worked out well. So, I say really bad violent offenders like murderers, sterilize them. Sex offenders, sterilize them. And then if you're like a career criminal who never stops burglarizing people and doing stick ups at the service station, sterilize them too. And then criminals stop having babies. Because, criminals fucking breed like rabbits. I'm not just talking about Aborigines. I just mean like um, they do. They have a very high fertility rate. They root like rabbits. Okay. All right. So, still in the Northern Territory, they're going to increase.
Still in the Northern Territory.
Yeah, crime section very often is like this. So, they're increasing the prison sentences for those people who have committed murder um, in the context of a domestic violence incident. So, basically, it's men killing their partners. It's pretty
Yes.
much what it is. Okay. So, under the current legislation, you receive an automatic life sentence, which actually means 20 years, no probation, not no parole. Sorry. So after that, after 20 years, you can make an application to be set free. So the CLP
25 years and also remand, and also like it's normally about 15 years.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
So they're making it 25 years. So, by Australian standards, that's actually pretty harsh. So that is a minimum, absolute minimum of 25 years in jail. And let's face it, a lot of these guys who bash up their wives or whatever, they don't really have much more than 25 years left of life in them. So many of them would just die in prison. But fine, do it. All right. So another report here from the Department of Communities and Justice. This has found that around 2/3 of reports that they receive about child abuse are not being followed up. Now, I don't know how many of those tips would be considered credible. The way the ABC report this story is that all of them are credible. But I don't know how. Surely, most of this stuff should just be given to the police, and not these like makeshift bodies, because they've got to take
it's
that
given to
information.
their wives.
Well,
it's mostly their wives who admit this information to the police, and
if you have like a credible tip or whatever, I mean, yeah, you go straight to the police, don't you? You don't go to like some kind of middleman bureaucracy over that.
No, you. Yeah, I went to, but I'd like to say like most women actually go, especially if they consider their children to be molested or abused, they go to their local police department. But most of the time it's just them.
Right. Okay, so
So
French authorities in this is in French Polynesia, though not in French waters. Uh, they have found a ship that was carrying almost 5 tons of cocaine that was bound for Australia. Um, but what did the police actually do here? Well, they boarded the boat and then they threw all of the coke into the ocean and then they let them go. Um, so they say that, oh, sorry, French Polynesia's president has said that the ship's origin or destination country, um, they're the ones that are responsible for investigating and laying charges. So
what?
yes, they went and took over this boat, dumped the cocaine, and then just let them all go. For trafficking that much cocaine in almost any jurisdiction, that's going to mean like a life sentence. In many jurisdictions, it would mean death. Uh, I mean,
Including the waters it was actually caught in.
right, and I mean also authorities like work together all the time, as in from different countries, to intercept trafficking of this kind of nature. I mean, a great example actually is the Bali Nine. Australian Federal Police tipped off Indonesia about these people smuggling heroin into Bali, and then they were arrested in Indonesia. And of course, the AFP were heavily criticised for that because they're like, you should have arrested them in Australia because then they would be subject to lighter sentencing. Of course, what I mean, like they executed 2 of the Bali Nine, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yeah. And then the others got like huge sentences, like over 20 years. Um, so yeah, I find that amazing. Well, I guess I shouldn't find it amazing considering we're talking about French Polynesia here. But you know, it still stuns me. You can just let drug drug traffickers of that magnitude just let them go like that.
The
Um,
worst part is in terms of international politique, yeah, you'll be surprised, Finian.
yeah.
You'll be fucking surprised.
Okay. Let's go over to Queensland. Um, so the Crisafulli government there, Liberal National Party, they're saying that they'll expand their tough on crime laws for a second time. Tough on youth crime. Now, Crisafulli is saying that police data is showing a 7.2% drop in victims of crime. That's for 2025. So, of course, he's claiming credit for that, saying that they have taken the right course here. Um, so, this new round of laws, what they're doing is they're adding a bunch of new offences to the list of where you can be receive adult time for adult crime. So if you're under 18, you still get like a pretty harsh sentence, is what that means. Um, yeah, that's good. You have Africans stabbing grannies to death in Queensland. So, and Aborigines stabbing people during burglaries as well, killing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the states have a responsibility to be tough on crime, and the federal government has a responsibility to keep potential criminals out of the country. Uh, that there is actually the source of the problem, but we'll never do anything about that. Okay. Oh god, this story just keeps coming up.
Yep.
So, Victoria
Yep.
now. So Jacinta Allen's government has refused to guarantee that biological males, I hate that term, it's just males, okay? That males will no longer be housed in a women's prison. Okay, now here we're talking about this guy who supposedly transitioned. So his name was Clinton uh, Rintoul or something, and now he's called Stacy or something. I don't know. Um, and was sent to a women's prison. Now, this guy, I forget what he was convicted of. It was a 20 year sentence. So it's obviously serious. Anyway, he raped his cellmate. Okay, what a surprise. There's actually numerous other prisoners, females, from that prison who also reported being sexually assaulted by this guy. This is another example of one of these things that's like horrifying and farcical at the same time. Um, so the Victorian government did say that there were going to be changes made to their policy on the placement of biological prisoners inside women's prisons. But they're stopping short of guaranteeing that it just won't happen again. Why? Well, this is just clown world shit. We can't actually say that we won't put men in a women's prison. All right. Okay, on the climate and energy. So, $15 billion fund will be allowed to invest in loss-making projects that help to cut emissions. All right. So yeah, not a surprise
Possibly.
that a lot of green energy, the profits just aren't there to be made because it's too expensive to make, and it doesn't generate enough electricity to yield a return. So it's just not worth actually making, unless, of course, the government gives you a massive, massive subsidy to build it. Well, that's what's happening here. So that's another $15 billion added to the God knows how much they've already spent on all this stuff. And, well, the Liberals rightly have said that this is investing in unproductive green projects. Yes, it is. And that will fuel inflation. Yes, it will. So yeah, I mean,
Again, like
this is how these companies make the money. They make it from these massive, massive government grants.
I literally spoke to fucking Andrew Forrest about this while he was building his fucking new extension on his fucking house.
Did you say you spoke to him?
Yes.
What did he say?
Well, I'd love to extend like green energy, green hydrogens to be specific.
Yeah, because he's invested in that.
Yes, but like no, I fucking hate that man.
Well, here's one that the Greenies will like. Apparently, Australian households have installed as many batteries in the last 6 months of 2025 as they did in the entire preceding 5 years.
Wow.
So, again, this is because of government subsidies that have slashed the upfront cost of those batteries. So we've had 183,000 units that were sold in the 6 months to December of last year. And that's a fourfold increase on the same time in 2024. So yeah, people are stocking up on these batteries. Yeah, it kind of is. While they're throwing out a lot of old solar panels at the same time that we don't really know how to dispose of. Okay. All right. Now, if you're looking for an electric vehicle, you could get up to $1,900 from the government as a subsidy. So, oh God. So, electric vehicles priced below the luxury car tax threshold, that amount is $91,378. If it's under that price, you will qualify for interest rate discounts of between 0.5 and 1%. So on a typical
What?
$70,000 loan for 5 years, you could save more than $1,900 on interest costs. Okay. That's not really that much, is it, in the scheme of things? And it's money that you save over 5 years. Anyway, it's there. Yet another thing if you want to get an electric vehicle. Okay.
If you want to get fucked.
So, let's go to the States. Look at that. We've actually got a few stories for the States and territories. We'll start in the territory, in Northern Territory. So 4 Labor members of the lower house and 3 crossbenchers walked out of Parliament the other day. Now, this is due to the appointment of David Connolly as the Northern Territory's administrator. That is the equivalent of a state governor.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a ceremonial role. It's apolitical. But why is it that they walked out over this guy? Well, it was to do with some social media posts that he put up. One of them was where he put up a picture of the women's volleyball team and said that he was looking forward to the game. And he said something like, "Oh, see if you can find the reason why." And the reason why was basically because he showed like what? It was more wedgies.
Oh, ass.
It was like
he's an ass.
It was like a group. He must be. But yeah, it was like 5 hot girls there, and this was deemed to be sexist. Right? This was actually one of the social media posts that the ABC mentioned. What else?
The ass
there?
man in politics.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh yeah, he also put up a meme about white privilege. So it says, white privilege, the ability to suffer life's universal indignities without blaming another ethnic group. Oh yeah, and then this one. Did you know the blue whale's anus can open 3.5 feet, making it the second largest arsehole in the world behind Albanese?
Okay, so that's me as a politician, sorry.
Yeah. So they've all been deleted, but yeah, these posts, this is what these members of parliament walked out over.
I think the whale one is possibly the worst.
Okay, Victorian Libs, just quickly, the former deputy leader, Sam Groth, he is resigning this week. That's always a blow to the Libs in Victoria, considering an election isn't all that far away. Some people think that Jacinta Allen's approval rating might actually go so low that an incompetent Liberal government might actually be a viable alternative. Well,
could it go negative?
It's not. So they're going to a by-election early here, even though the state election is due in November. So, God, I don't know why he couldn't stick it out a few more months. It seems odd. Anyway, Victorian Labor. Oh, yes. So the opposition there have asked the Allen government to refer its procurement decisions to the anti-corruption watchdog. This is because a small group of donors to the Labor Party secured more than 50 meetings with government ministers while holding hundreds of millions of dollars in state government contracts. Yeah, that sounds very, very fishy to me. In other words, all these rich fuckers who
Welcome to my Monday.
Lots of money to the Labor Party were securing meetings with the ministers and getting multi-million-dollar state contracts. Yeah, that sounds like third world style corruption to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, and isn't that amazing that you've got scandals like that blatant, and it still seems like the opposition can't land a blow on Labor in Victoria? You know, uh,
God.
yeah. So 23 companies collectively donated over $60,000 to Labor's Victorian branch, were awarded 421.38 million dollars in state government contracts. Oh God. Oh God. Okay, and finally,
Do you
did you
feel
hear
happy?
Dan Andrews got sick again? I don't know if you heard about this, but he just keeps like going back to hospital.
I was gonna
Um,
say, like, did he fall down the stairs again?
well, that's the thing. We don't know. It's referred to as a mystery illness. Um, all we were told was he was put in hospital 2 months ago, uh, and considering he was there for 2 months, it must have been something serious. But now we're told he's out of hospital and he is getting stronger and stronger. So, yeah, I don't know what's wrong
I
with him,
guess.
but something must be. Okay. All right, Tasmanian Liberal Party. So, well, the Greens there have linked the peak hospitality body's donations to the Liberal Party behind the recent demise of the mandatory pokies gaming card. So, of course, this is a card that you need to play, and when you lose a certain amount, it locks you out of the system and you can't gamble anymore.
Yes.
They were supposed to be at least trialing that in Tasmania, but that never happened. Yeah, so um, I think that just like tobacco companies, um, the gambling lobby should basically be seen as the same thing. You shouldn't accept donations from them. You know,
It's
uh,
crime. It is crime, isn't it?
you're stealing money from vulnerable people who make really, really bad choices. I mean, do you really want to actually live off their misery?
Yeah, I was
So,
gonna say, like, it is crime. It is crime.
yeah, well, I consider it to be such. Yeah. Okay, Queensland LNP. Oh yeah, so David Crisafulli, the Premier, said that Queensland will make changes to their electoral system by making preferential voting optional. So, of course, that's where you
Oh
number every
shit.
box. They've only got one ballot in Queensland because they don't have an upper house there. Quite unusual, but yeah, all they have is a
Yes.
lower house. But yeah, that means if you were to say just put a one in the box, and that party didn't win anything, well, your preference votes wouldn't flow anywhere because you have no preference votes. Your vote would simply be thrown out. Now, people always speculate on, well, who would that benefit and who would that hurt? Well, they're saying that it might actually benefit One Nation. Now, the reason why, I don't know if this is true or not, but some commenters have said that One Nation voters are much more likely than Liberal voters to just put a one in the box and not number the rest. Whereas if you're a Liberal Party voter, you're more likely to fill everything in. I guess because One Nation to an extent is considered to be a protest vote. So a lot of people who are voting One Nation will go, well, I hate all the other parties equally, so therefore I'm just putting the one in the box and the other parties can get fucked. Right?
I did hear about the Shooters, Fishers, and Farmers Party.
Yeah. What about them?
Is there a fuck you vote?
Oh, as a protest vote. Yeah, quite
Yes.
possibly as well. But yeah, anyway, I mean, with the rise in One Nation, and I'm assuming that a lot of that support's coming from Queensland because, well, historically,
It's
One
Queensland.
Nation's That's like the base of their support. Yeah, I mean, Pauline Hanson is from Queensland. So, yeah, I reckon this could definitely backfire on them. Malcolm Turnbull made reforms to the Senate, and that actually resulted in 4 One Nation senators. Um, the federal parliament had never had a single One Nation senator until then. All they had was Pauline Hanson in the lower house, who lasted for 1 term.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'll definitely be interesting to see. Okay, now, New South Wales Labor. Well, this is sort of to do with New South Wales Labor because it's to do with a bunch of former ministers and a son here. So, Eddie Obeid, basically, you had this alliance between Eddie Obeid, his son Moses Obeid, and by the way, they're Maronite Lebs. Eddie Obeid doesn't really look all that Arabic, but fuck, you should see Moses. Like, he is, he's like a fucking Grand Mufti, that guy. But anyway, they collaborated with the former Labor Minister Ian MacDonald to to rip out $30 million of public money. And this was from a rigged coal license deal that they did. They were all found guilty. They've all served a certain amount of time in jail, but I know that Eddie Obeid was released early, and I think they were arguing like health reasons, because he is a aging man. So, yeah, they were found guilty in 2021. They were guilty of using Ian MacDonald's ministerial role in 2008 to grant a coal exploration license for the Obeid family's farm at Mount Penny. It is said to actually be one of the worst corruption cases in the country ever. It is a shitload of money. Anyway, they have made a bid to overturn their corruption convictions. But unfortunately for them, that failed. So this went all the way to the High Court. They unanimously agreed that, yes, they did actually conspire, these 3 men, to rip off $30 million in government money. And look, I just like mentioning this every time I talk about Eddie Obeid or his son or whoever. They date from that first batch of Lebs, not first batch of Lebs, but when the Lebanese Civil War was on, and we started letting them all in the 70s and 80s.
He's not a Maronite.
Yeah, well, this guy actually was a Maronite, though. I mean, yeah, we got plenty of the bad, like ruralite Muslims, who of course turned out to be worse. But still, not only did they bring Lebanese style or Middle Eastern style crime to Australia, in other words, more serious crime like gang rape.
They brought third worldism.
Yeah, well, they brought political corruption with them as well. I mean, this is kind of third world politics that we see here. Ripping off government funds to that extent, and it was really only then. They all joined the Labor Party. All the Lebs, if they got involved in politics, they joined Labor. And that was when you started to see Labor involved in all of these financial scandals. It was Lebs. We didn't see this until we put Lebs into the system. Okay. Okay, so the first ever Greens member of the lower house, Kat McNamara, is leaving her role in the Northern Territory. So she says it's just for health reasons. I don't know. I think a lot of the time with these kind of candidates, they just don't expect to win. And, they're willing to campaign and promote the party and everything. And then they kind of accidentally get in and they realize the job is kind of hard. Although Ricky Muir did actually last a full term. Yeah. Okay. So just one story from the parties at the federal level. Do you remember we actually have a party called Australia's Voice? And its leader is
Gang is
Fatima
van der
Payman.
Boist.
Yeah, so she is
Yes.
a senator from Western Australia. She used to be part of the Labor Party. She went independent over
My favorite
disagreements
hijabi.
Palestine. So she actually accepted a $40,000 election donation from Michael Ravbar. Now, he is the former boss of the CFMEU in Queensland. So, of course, when the union went into administration,
It was
he
for
was,
cranes, by the way.
he was what?
No, it was for cranes. Regulations about cranes.
Oh,
She
okay.
won't admit that, but yes, I will say that.
Yeah, well, look, she was actually when the uh, the government was in the process of putting the CFME into administration. She was actually one of the lone voices in Parliament that was supporting that. Was opposing that because, of course, even though there were many in the Labor Party who would not have liked that, well, you can't oppose official Labor policy if you're a member of Parliament because the punishment for that is expulsion from the party. But no, Fatima
And then when you
Payman.
become an independent, and we get paid, so yeah.
And also, I might add that I don't know if this is because of that. Who's the New York mayor that we have now? Was he some Brownoid? I forget his name, but he proudly calls himself a democratic socialist and a Muslim. Well,
Madame.
Fatima Payman is doing the exact same thing.
Of course.
I saw she put out something on social media where she had like a cartoon of herself saying proudly democratic socialist. Also, you may not know this, she's pregnant. And apparently she was getting a bunch of hate mail from people telling her that she had to quit politics because she is, obviously when you've got a life growing inside you,
You
you
fucking
may not
sniped
be,
me. What?
you wouldn't be fully up for the job. I mean, if that's the case, Fatima, then I'm going to assume that you'd want to scrap maternity leave then, because a woman's life is just not affected in any way by being pregnant. But what's the name? Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. She was prime minister and she had a baby during her term. What an empowering thing to do.
Progesterone is possibly the hormone that would destroy someone's mental concentration. Are you sure she's pregnant?
Yeah, she said as much. I read a Facebook post where she said it.
There we go.
She was also
I guess
she was also talking about how apparently she was getting more work done in the Senate than other senators, and that's also not despite the fact just that she's pregnant, but also that she has only 4 staffers working for her, whereas the average senator has 8. So,
oh god.
oh yeah, no, hold on. She's expecting a baby girl in May, and she's married to a white Aussie, by the way.
Never ask an anti-white person who her husband is.
Well, I don't know if he converted to Islam or anything, but you know what? Looking at the photo of him, he looks like he's a ginger. He looks like he has red hair. So, given that, I'm going to bet
I guess
that he did
him and Muhammad. Him and Muhammad,
You know that redheads are more likely to convert to Islam. Have you heard that?
Oh yes.
It's true.
It is. It,
it is.
it is. It's actually. It's terrifyingly true. But yes,
It's amazing.
is that the last story, or do we need to go into Schwimmer?
Do you want to jump to that?
Well, I mean, it's all good. I'm very tired. I'm an EPPP boy.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to the last story then. We might fit some of this other stuff in for you next week, guys. But I will let Nosey have an early night. So, all right, let's just quickly talk about this 13-year-old boy. Don't worry, I'm going to have an early one as well. I'm exhausted today. Anyway, 13-year-old boy from Perth. He is a little legend, absolutely. So he was out on a boat, on a kayak with his family. So I think it was his mum, his brother, and sister, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't really remember. Anyway, they got swept out to sea round about...
and a rep, yes.
Yeah. So they were like a good 4 kilometers or so from land. So he actually took... They were all hanging on to like bits of timber, just like out in the middle of the ocean. And so he actually took the kayak to go back to land to get help. So he kept going. The kayak started to take water, meaning it was sinking. So he was forced then to get into the water, and he swam for 4 kilometers back to shore. Now, that's cool. And then obviously he eventually got help. But initially, he was not able to get help. Why was it? Because when he got back to the beach, it was full of foreigners who didn't speak English. So
he landed too fucking far north.
Yeah. He was not able to get help until he finally found some people who spoke the same language as him. Which element of it?
They called it the most Australian fucking story, of this, error and etc. And they fucking kept that away.
They did. Oh god. Okay. Well, guys, thank you for listening to that. We're sorry we ended up being a bit late. Yep. You know what you should do? You should go to theracer.biz/donate and give us some money so that Nolsey can buy himself a decent microphone and a decent PC setup too, I think. Anyway, leave it there. Remember, you can donate to Joel Davis's legal defense fund as well. I will leave the link for that in the info. And yeah, we'll see you next week.